first console already existed, but it wasn't a success. Until someone understood something crucial. Video games didn't have to be perfect, they had to be addictive. And with a ridiculously simple idea, he created one of the most important companies in the story, Atari. And also set in motion the chaos that almost destroyed the entire industry. In the early 1970s, a young engineer named Nolan Bushnell had one obsession: to take video games out of laboratories and bring them into the real world, into bars, arcades, to everyday people. But there was a problem. At the time, video games weren't a business. They were just experiments, strange prototypes that barely worked. No one would pay for that, except for him. And then something happened that changed everything. A demonstration, a strange machine connected to a television. It was the Magnavox Odyssey. It had no sound, no memory. It didn't even keep score. But Bushnell didn't see its limitations. He saw something far more important. People were playing. And if people were already willing to play that, then they would play something better. Faster, simpler, more attractive. So in 1972, he decided to give it a try. He founded a small company with a very clear idea: make video games that anyone could understand in seconds. That company was called, of course, Atari. Shortly after came the first experiment, a ridiculously simple game. 2 paddles and a ball bouncing between them. Pong. They placed it in a bar. No advertising, no expectations whatsoever. Just to test it. And a few days later, the machine stopped working. Not because it broke, but because it was full of coins. Pong didn't just work, it was addictive. And overnight, Atari stopped being just an idea. It became a business. And machines started appearing everywhere. Bars, arcades, anywhere someone could drop a coin and play again. And again, and again, and again. Atari had found something dangerous. A formula that worked, and that worked pretty well. But there still was a problem. Because even though Pong seemed new, the idea wasn't entirely new. Years earlier, the Magnavox Odyssey already included a very similar game. More primitive, more limited, but with the same core concept. 2 players, a ball, and the constant bouncing. And of course that didn't go unnoticed, because behind the Odyssey it was Magnavox, and its creator Ralph Baer, the man who had that idea first. So yeah, Atari didn't invent Pong, they just perfected it. And obviously that led to something inevitable, a lawsuit. Magnavox accused Atari for copying their technology, and profiting for an idea that wasn't theirs. Atari could have fought it, but they made a different decision. They reached a settlement. They paid for the license and moved forward. Because at that moment, what mattered wasn't who did it first, it was who was going to dominate the market. And Atari knew it. If Pong worked like this, it was only the beginning. So let's pay a small amount of legal expenses to them just streaming money the next day. And they kept going, stronger than ever. Atari didn't just have a successful game, they had an entire industry growing around it. New machines, new titles, and a growing audience. By the late 1970s, Atari was the center of everything. They dominated arcades, and now the living room too. With consoles like the Atari 2600, video games stopped being occasional and became part of everyday life. The growth was unstoppable. Millions of consoles sold, games released non-stop, and one clear feeling: there was no limit. But the more the market grew, the less control Atari had, because they weren't alone anymore. Atari's success opened the door for everyone. Companies like Coleco with the ColecoVision and Mattel with the Intellivision started competing directly, and dozens of smaller companies joined in. Consoles like the Fairchild Channel F and the Magnavox Odyssey Squared fought for a piece of the market. But the real problem wasn't the consoles, it was the games. Because for the first time, anyone could develop for the Atari 2600. Companies like Activision started releasing games without Atari's control, and what began as an opportunity became chaos. Games were released constantly. No filters, no standards. Most of them mediocre, made quickly just to ride the wave. Every week a new game, every month a new console, and no one knew what was worth playing anymore. What used to be excitement became noise. And then Atari made a decision, one that changed everything. They just wanted a guaranteed hit, something massive. So they licensed one of the biggest movies at the time, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and they made a game in record time. Weeks, not months. Weeks. No testing, no polish. Only one goal: get into the stores. The result was a complete disaster. Confusing, frustrating. A game millions bought and millions returned. And at that moment, people lost trust. It wasn't just a bad game, it was the proof that something was broken. Stores filled with returns, games that no one wanted. Many companies disappeared, and the market that had been growing collapsed. Years of growth fell apart in months. In the New Mexico desert, trucks dumped tons of unsold cartridges, brand new, unopened, buried underground, as if the entire industry had been a mistake. And at the center of it all, Atari remained. But the company that created the boom now symbolized the crash. The empire had fallen. Because in the end, it wasn't the lack of ideas that destroyed gaming. It was excess. Too much, too fast, too uncontrolled. And a market that broke itself. And for a while, the world stopped believing in video games. But not everywhere. While the US collapsed, in Japan one company watched, learning, preparing, and its name was Nintendo. And it wouldn't just bring games back, it would set new rules that would define the industry. And this time, things wouldn't spiral out of control. This story started with an idea, a primitive console that almost no one understood. But without that beginning, none of this would exist. And what comes next is the answer to this chaos. So follow to not miss the rest of the story. See you in 2 weeks.